I'll never forget because it was such a long session, and like, you know, we were just talking about our history throughout the session, and you know, I really got sick.
One of the coolest things I think about you is just seeing your body of work, in the sense that you have just so many clients that have so much work from you. I mean, I've genuinely, like, I've been in this industry for a little bit, and I've never seen anything like that where so many people have so much work from the same artist.
Tattooing feels like a dream, man. It really does. Like, it's like one of those things, like if you told me I was going to do that one day, I would have been like, what?
You're listening to the Eden Body Art Studios podcast, or the Eden BAS pod for short. My name is Colton James, and I'm one of the owners of the studio. I host this podcast with my wife and co-owner, Deanna James. The artists and clients we get to work with every day make Eden unlike any other tattoo studio on the planet. Some of them we've known for years, and some of them we just met, but we want to introduce them to you, the listener. The idea is for us and for you to get to know them a little better. Take a listen. You're going to love it. All right, Eden BAS Pod. I'm your host, Colton James. Deanna's out of the studio again today, but I'm here with our resident artist, Michael Hovaguimian. Michael, how are you doing today?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me, Colton.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad that we were finally able to do this. I've been wanting to have you on the podcast since we started, so thanks for coming over.
Thanks for having me, man.
And thanks for feeding me against my will, partially.
You just you helped me as I fell off the wagon with this Whataburger, so I feel guilty I did this to you.
So you're from LA, Whataburger or In-N-Out?
Man,
careful.
Yeah.
I'm
so
just
this
kidding.
is, again, I feel like I've had this conversation with some Texans already.
Yeah.
They're just like different. They're like different worlds, different categories. Like you can't compare them because they're just both great in their own ways.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like Whataburger is like, not that I'm a stoner, but I feel like it's more stoner food. It's like, and it's probably the best stoner food, even though, like I said, I'm not a stoner.
More so than In-N-Out being from California?
Oh, what, dude, stoners don't eat In-N-Out. In-N-Out's too like sophisticated and healthy.
What?
Like nobody in their high state is like, I'd like because I think the vegetables in the In-N-Out burgers are like, they're fresher versus like if you get a burger.
Dude, I would love some In-N-Out if I was stoned. Sounds delicious.
I mean, I don't know. I always thought of like places like Taco Bell and Del Taco as like,
I feel like
where you
Taco
end
Bell,
up there at like 3-4 in the morning, and
Taco Bell, that's the ultimate stoner food right there.
Yeah, definitely. No, but man, Whataburger is it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's like, Texans say Whataburger is better, and then people from the West Coast say In-N-Out's better. I feel like it's more of like a pride thing, because I will securely say that both of them are delicious, and I enjoy both.
I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, I love both. I love that the In-N-Outs out here aren't as busy as the ones in LA.
Really? Because they seem pretty busy out here.
Oh, dude, it's a mess out there.
Dude, when they first opened, and man, this was like maybe 10 years ago now, but when they first opened, it was like a big deal. Like there were like lines out the door around the store. Like everyone was so excited for In-N-Out to get here.
I believe it. I believe it. It's not, man, the one by my house, I can go anytime, inside or drive through. It's not so bad. Whereas back home, it'd go like around the block.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew you were going to be like waiting like 30 minutes before you're going to even get your food.
Do you ever go to Chick-fil-A?
I do. It's there's a lot of them out here.
Yeah. I feel like it kind of sounds like that, where Chick-fil-A is like always like super busy, but both Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out, they do a really good job of moving people through. And I think having just good people work there. So even if the line's super long, you're not waiting for too long, Dude, if like whoever orchestrates what's going on at Chick-fil-A can do that at all major airports, everything would be like, things would be amazing to fly. I will say though, if I was in a time crunch, I would have to go to In-N-Out over Whataburger, because Whataburger takes a long time sometimes. It
does, man. But hey man, I'm loving it. Yeah. I love their logo, dude. It's like
the iconic
it's
orange and white.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Wonder Woman and like WWF wrestling. I don't know. And it tastes like WWF wrestling. I don't know, like
that doesn't sound very good.
I don't know. It does. It has like an old school feel to it. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it does kind of look retro.
Yeah. No, it's, man, a lot of good junk food out here.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today. If you're not familiar with Michael's work yet, it's on Instagram. It's at Hovag Tattoos or Hovag_tattoos. Excuse me. And yeah, so like I said, Michael's from LA. Michael, do you want to describe the kind of work that you do?
I mean, I guess in LA, I did a lot of black and gray realism, black and gray, like illustrated. It's just something that like was in demand out there. So like did a lot of that out there. I love doing like some traditional Japanese and color work too, but I barely get inquiries out there because everybody was just into black and gray. So I love doing black and gray. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, that like people in a certain geographic area gravitate to a certain style?
I don't know. For me, it was like, I think it's time. You know, the time it takes to do like a black and gray piece or a black and gray. You know, it's like, as much as like artists don't like hearing it, but we hear it. It's like, hey, how long is this sleeve going to take?
Yeah.
You know, or even if they approach it like nicely and say, well, I don't want to sound pushy, but like roughly how many hours or sessions are we looking at? And, you know, when you hear that, it's like, you know, when you're going to do a color piece that's fully saturated, it's going to take super long. So I feel like that, I don't know, in LA when it comes to just time and patience, people are, you know, a little bit more impatient. I definitely feel like in my experiences out here in Texas, people are a lot more patient out here.
Interesting.
Like just a simple like supermarket trip. Everyone's just like calmer in the markets here.
Yeah.
And I'm like slow down. All right, slow down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. And I definitely think it's a valid question when somebody asks, like, you know, how many sessions is this sleeve going to take?
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely a hard pill to swallow for clients being like, yeah, if you want color, it's going to take twice as long, basically, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes they don't understand it and they don't want to understand it. But yeah, the black and gray, just, it's quicker.
I do feel like it's more popular out there on like the West Coast too.
Yeah,
like it's
culturally too.
Yeah.
Culturally, it's like, I mean, I had some clients, like if I showed them like, hey, you want to do something color? They'd be like, dude, what is that, man? That's like sissy stuff, you know?
Really?
Like, yeah, like they're very territorial about their black and gray. Like they love their black and gray. But I mean, again, I don't know. It was.
Yeah. I love black and gray though.
Oh, me too, man.
It's like, to me, it's like a timeless look. Like it just, anybody can rock it. It looks super cool on everybody. One thing I like about it too is, you know, there's so many black and gray artists out there nowadays that do black and gray realism, but no two people do it the same. Like everybody's got like, you know, their own style, their own flair to it. For
sure. No, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it is timeless. It is. It reminds me of like black and white TV, you know, like old school, like, and like, you know, super cool, like high contrast photographs. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with that, man.
Well, besides the Whataburger, how you like in Texas so far?
Man, I love it. I mean, I know at the studio, I like yap at everybody about that, but I love how clean it is out here. I love how like calm it is. You know, it's a lot calmer than, you know, LA County, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But everyone's super friendly. I mean, all my encounters so far, except for when I'm on the freeway and everyone's like driving.
Dude,
like
everyone says that comes here. They're like, Texas drivers are horrible.
Dude, they're like,
I don't think they're that bad. Maybe it's because I'm the bad driver.
Dude, they're like, if the cars are driving and there's no traffic, like an accident's about to happen. I feel it, dude. Like it's so, they're pretty wild. But on the inside streets, you know, on like the roads and, you know, like
people drive super fast on the freeways.
Yeah, it's the freeways. But on the inside streets, everyone's calm. I haven't heard many people honk out here.
Yeah,
where it's like in LA, it's like,
yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah, I've never been to LA, so I don't really have like a frame of reference for that. But just hearing you talk about it, it seems way more chill out here in Texas.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Oh, I have to like adjust to it. I'm enjoying adjusting to it.
Yeah. So how long were you in LA?
For my whole life. I mean,
born out there.
Born out there. Yeah, I mean, it's just so it's changed a lot in the last like 5 to 7 years. I mean, growing up, it was rad. I mean, I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved like living in LA. Being Armenian too, there's a big Armenian community out there. And I mean, I loved it. It's just, the last like 5 to 7 years, having a family out there, have 2 kids, and like, it's a different monster, man.
Yeah.
Things have changed everywhere, but in LA, it's just been really, really difficult to live out there.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about some things specifically?
Yeah, I mean, and
Like, because that's a big decision, especially if you've been there for your whole life. And I know your whole family's out there too. You had to move the whole family across the country to Texas. That's a big deal.
yeah, I mean, gosh, like, I think like, especially having kids, man, just like safety and, their safety and their future more than anything, man. Just the cost of living is so ridiculous out there. And
Yeah.
although we were surviving out there and we were doing okay, I just think about them, and I think about like, when they're going to go to college, or if they even go to college, or if they start a career, like how are they going to live? Like what kind of money are they going to need to make to like be able to survive, to be able to, to enjoy life, or even to choose to do something in life that they're going to enjoy, or they're going to have to do several things just to, to make ends meet. So I don't know, man. I just felt like that. And tons of other reasons too, but those are like 2 top reasons, I would say, just their safety and their, their future more than anything.
Yeah. How are they liking it out here?
They like it. They like it. It's kind of crazy that like we can walk our dog at like 10, 11 at night and not have to worry about anything as we're walking in our neighborhood.
It's so, you
it's
say all
funny.
this stuff that's like, you say it's crazy, but I grew up here, I grew up in McKinney, right up the road. So this is what I've been used to, forever. So yeah, doesn't sound too crazy to me, but
yeah, it's cool, man. It's like when I'm walking around and someone like looks at me and makes eye contact, they like say like howdy or hello, or like the lady at the market calls you darling. Like who calls you darling? like I haven't been called darling like
doesn't
ever.
happen in LA.
Like if you call someone darling in LA, like you're gonna throw down, dude. Like like would you call me?
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Everyone's like the Southern hospitality thing is like
It's a real thing, dude. Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing, man. It's being human, and that's like, obviously, man, like, dude, my clients in LA, like, awesomest people, like, they're so cool. There's so many down to earth people, but man, there's a lot of people, dude. They're just trying to survive. They're the hustle and bustle, man. It wears you down. It really would. It would wear me down, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's different out here, man. It's just don't tell anybody about this place. Like, don't let them come here. Like, let me like
don't tell your friends.
Yeah, dude. I like tell them when they're like, "Hey, how's Dallas?" I'm like, "Dude, it's terrible, dude. It's like, don't come
move
here, dude. Their weather is really rotten." And no,
Yeah. Well, you said some people have got like, they judge you from being from LA, right? Being from California.
Oh,
like,
dude.
you're like one of the transplants, one of those.
yeah, one of my neighbors, she's like, "You." Oh, so you're a transplant, huh? I'm
She
like,
said that to you.
yeah. I was
Sounds
like, and my daughter was there. She was like, "Dad, what's that?" I'm like, "Don't worry, go inside." But my wife too, she's like, when we got here, she's like, "Man, we need to change my plates on my car like ASAP."
Yeah.
Like I don't want people to know where I'm from, California.
Yeah.
But
Well, we're glad you're here.
thanks, man. And it's you guys made me feel so welcome here too, man. So it's the studio especially, man.
You want to talk about how you kind of found the studio?
Sure. Like, when we were like planning the move, I was, I had my own studio in LA, and I was just going to kind of start at square one and do that out here. And then from there, I was just kind of browsing to see what studios are in Dallas. Excuse me. And so I stumbled across you guys and how you guys are looking for an artist. And I just reached out to you and, and it's it was really cool, man. And then we did like a FaceTime interview, and I'm like FaceTiming you guys. I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, got like Deanna on FaceTime, and I'm like getting interviewed by them. It was really cool. That was a very fun experience.
Yeah. Well, we definitely really liked you a lot, obviously off the bat. Was there like a moment where you're like, okay, I got to move, like Texas is where we're going?
I was doing like conventions for the last like 5 years.
Because you were in Texas for a handful. You own a house out here, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that wasn't like to move. That was just like an investment thing. And just like I in those 5-6 years, I would come out and do conventions. I fell in love with different cities in Texas, from like San Antonio to Dallas, Austin, and so that was just like something that always got me wanting to like potentially live there, and then, so that kind of like led to that, So
yeah, had the family been out here?
My wife had been out here a couple times. But the kids hadn't. So the kids came out for the first time when I guest spotted at your studio. So
yeah. Well, talk about the guest spot a little bit.
No, that was cool, man. It was like, at first I was like, man, these people are all too nice. Like, is this real? I'm like, they're all so nice. And then like, I would see how everyone interacts with each other, and I'm like, yeah, like these people are genuine, like the way they are. And I felt like welcomed, and and just to be able to be offered a position at the studio was super exciting. And yeah, man, it was a great experience. I felt so welcomed, from everybody. Yeah. It's like the way you guys are, the crew and all the artists, everyone's just a reflection of that too, man. So it's really neat.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, I feel like we talk about it a lot. Like, I feel like we've created a really like collaborative, like positive environment. So I feel like it seems like any guest artist that comes in, they have a good time. I do feel like we're really welcoming, but I also feel like just a lot of cool people come through the studio. Like, I can't imagine anyone being anything but super nice and welcoming to you. You're like the nicest guy I've ever met.
Thanks, man. No, even the clients, like all the, that's something in LA, I always wanted to, create like a calm and relaxing and just like an environment that a client can be comfortable. Cause ultimately, like, you want to be nice to people, and if they're comfortable, they're going to sit better, and everyone's, excuse me, everyone's going to have a better time. And like, when you have that and you have it like done in an organic way, and it's just natural, and everyone's just like that. Yeah. Like, like you can't beat it. And the clients here say that all the time. They're like, man, from the moment I came in, like, everyone at the front desk, all the other artists, they just have a good time, and they feel like comfortable. That's refreshing. I love that.
I do think it's like so important to create a welcoming environment for clients. I know myself, when I get tattooed, especially if I like fly to go somewhere, I get like a ton of anxiety. So yeah, if there's like friendly people when you walk in the door, it definitely helps kind of like curb some of that anxiety. And also like what you're about to do is like a big deal, obviously tattoos are permanent. So it's like, it can be a little bit nerve wracking. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. No, I love it when clients do say that, like, man, I felt this was such a pleasant experience. Like, man, I just jammed a bunch of needles in you, man, and you said pleasant. Yeah. All in the same sentence. Yeah. Great.
That's the only thing we can't do, is we can't make it not hurt. Yeah.
You could advertise like painless tattoos. Come on.
Dude, that's like a thing now.
Like
I've seen it before. Like Steve Butcher, I remember he was like tattooing Lonzo Ball, like this basketball player. Mm-hmm. And well, first I had seen videos of Lonzo getting tattooed by Steve Butcher, and it was like, dude, not to talk too much shit, but it was like his forearm, and he was like literally kicking and screaming, like squirming around, and like, that's not too rough of a spot right there. But then the next time I saw him getting tattooed, he actually posted something like, there was some sports medicine doctor, or maybe it was like a team doctor that like shot him up with something. I forget what it was, but like it said, he doesn't feel, he didn't feel any pain during this tattoo.
Wow. Was it like lidocaine or something?
I don't know. Yeah. But it was like, something injected like from a medical professional. And actually, Ganga Tattoo in LA. Yeah. So they are putting people under actually for procedures now. Yeah. It's crazy. Whoa. It's insane. It's
Holy moly.
It's like mostly celebrities. So like, they just had Post Malone there, and they do like different cosmetic things there. Like I think they did something with his mouth or something, but he was under, and you can see pictures. And when people go in and they get put under, they like try to knock out the tattoo like as fast as possible. So they'll have like 5 different artists tattooing them, but they're under like anesthesia. And so they have like an anesthesiologist there, like monitoring everything. They have like all their vitals and stuff, but
Wow.
yeah.
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Dude, I actually just was looking at the Instagram page today. I would love to like find out more about how they do it. I bet it's super expensive.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you have to have a doctor on staff.
Yeah. But everybody I've seen them do that with is like celebrities. Yeah. So I guess when you got money like that. Yeah.
Dude, I'm sure this is out in LA or in California?
Yeah. In LA. Yeah.
Well, with all the restrictions that they have out there, probably out here, you probably just, you just need the machine or you just need some of the syringes and you're set.
Yeah. Yeah. What's funny about that is I just see like a bunch of people like, it's not everybody, but if you ever read the comments on that stuff, it's like people saying like, oh, if you can't take the pain, like you didn't earn it, you know?
Man. Yeah. The client and I were talking about that today. Like,
Really?
Yeah. Like, if it didn't hurt, then, then everybody's going to have it.
Really? You think so? That it's that much of it?
Some people,
yeah,
they won't get it because it hurts, like.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, not for everybody, but some people, it might deter them from getting it. But
I feel like I've collected a lot of tattoos. I can't tell you how many sessions I've been in, but I will personally say if I could not be in pain while getting tattooed or be in pain when getting tattooed, I would decide not to be in pain every time.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, also, you're a collector too. Like, like you're on this journey. It's like a journey, I feel like, versus if someone's just going to get one, like they're going to want to feel the pain too. Some people do. They want to experience that.
I have heard people say that too. It's
so
like,
you're on this journey. So I don't know. You're also at a different crossroads too, because you've got so much work done. And
I also feel like the more you get tattooed, like the more you run out of easy spots, because some spots are just like super difficult, but they're kind of obscure. Like a lot of people don't start with like side pieces or whatever, super tough areas.
How old were you when you got your first? Can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
How old were you when you got your first tattoo?
So my first tattoo, it was a Friday the 13th tattoo, and this was, I think, it was October 2017. So it was like a little more than 4 years ago. So I got the Friday the 13th tattoo. It was done fine and everything like that. It wasn't $13. I actually paid up for it. It was like a regular walk-in tattoo, but it was on Friday the 13th. And then I got another one a week later. And I had always wanted tattoos. I'd been following tattoo shops and stuff like that. And then when I was like, oh, dude, I can just get these whenever I want. That was like addicting right there. So I got those two. The first one is almost caught. It's being lasered off. The second one is covered up. And then I got another one like a couple months after that. It was like that January. And that one is very close to being gone. And then after that, I think it was like that same month is when I got tattooed at Dark Age for the first time. And that was my first good tattoo. Like that was like my first realistic, it was a black and gray piece, and that's what started my sleeve. And after that, I only got good stuff.
So like to the pain question, like the pain topic that you were talking about, like did the tattoos hurt less, you said 2017?
Yeah.
Did they hurt less in 2017? And I know the spots are obviously different because like clients would tell me that like as they're getting older, it's hurting more.
Yeah.
I don't know if that like.
No, I agree. Yeah. And I think, I don't know. I just feel like as the more I get tattooed, the more of a baby I am about it, And maybe it's because like, I feel like when you're a client who's not in the tattoo industry, like, dude, sometimes it's like these tattoo artists are like celebrities pretty much. Like, I mean, I remember when I first started getting tattooed, I was like, it was just so cool to be there. And I felt like so badass that I had tattoos or that I was like friends with my tattoo artist. So it was a little bit more like, dude, I'll do whatever it takes to get this tattoo. And I was like in college at the time, and I lived like a couple hours from the studio, like not very close. And my artist that was working on my sleeve, he was an apprentice, and he wouldn't finish his apprentice stuff until like 11 o'clock at night. So that's when that's when we would start a session. It's like 9, 11 o'clock at night, and we go till like 3 a.m, and then I have to drive back home. But it did not bother me at the time. Like I was just so excited to be getting tattoos and like to be there. So that was part of it. I think after a while, the kind of like, not that it's not exciting anymore, but I also know how much it's going to suck. So I'm less excited to actually like get tattoos. I love having tattoos, but yeah.
But like you said too, like you're running out of spots that don't hurt as much. You're getting some tough, dude. You're getting some tough areas, man.
Well, yeah. So my arms are done now. My back's done, my chest's done, but I feel like legs are super tough. And then the only spots I have left, like my sides and my stomach, like this is gonna suck,
man. Yeah,
dude. The side is the worst thing I've ever experienced.
And you got your neck and your head, which
that wasn't too bad actually. Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Said no one ever, but Colton.
Maybe it was just the style, man. Because that was my first neo-traditional tattoo. Like pretty much all my other stuff is realism. So I don't know. Maybe that hurts less. But you know what's interesting too? I also like some people say that like liners hurt more, and then some people say that mags hurt more. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Some people say, I mean, with the mags, it's like sometimes you'd start and they're like, oh, this is nothing. I'm like, all right, dude, let's talk in like 3 hours as I whip out my sandpaper to wipe down your arm.
well, that's the other thing too, is like the length of the session. Like a lot of people I've talked to about getting their first tattoos are like, oh, I'm worried about the pain. It's like, honestly, if it's just an hour or two, like it's really not going to be that bad.
No, but the liner thing, yeah. Some people are like, oh my gosh, the liner, you're going to start it with the liner and it might be aggressive on that first hit.
Yeah.
Versus like building up like a black and gray piece with the mag.
So how many tattoos do you have, Michael?
I just started my legs. No, zero.
Why is that?
They're just so expensive. No, I'm kidding. Well, they are so expensive.
It is. It's worth it.
I don't know, man. Like I'm an old dude, man, and I don't know, I've never wanted to have tattoos as a kid. I never did I say, dude, I want to get tatted or, I want a tattoo. And I never looked down on them. I never I just didn't have a desire to ever get one. And so I don't know, I love tattoos so much. I love art.
Just not on you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm also super hairy and I got my farmer's tans going. I work really hard on my farmer tan, especially on on my driver side arm window,
Yeah, especially sunny LA.
Yeah, so I don't know, you got to take care of them, dude. You can't, and I don't take care of myself. I just had Whataburger. I just ate 2 burgers from Whataburger, dude.
1.5.
1.5. But but still, I don't need and I feel like it's super. I'm like the Gestapo when it comes to telling people to take care of their tattoos.
Yeah.
You have to. It's, I've seen so many poor tattoos because of how somebody has treated their bodies with their tattoos. They didn't take care of them. So for me, it's like a pet peeve. And I know I know I'm not going to take care of it,
Gotcha.
At this point in life. I mean, I don't know. Do I think they look cool? I think they look rad. That's another thing. This might sound a little vain, but tattoos make people look really rad and cool.
No, that's absolutely true.
And
it's a scientific fact. Actually, you look 100% cooler.
Yeah, with tattoos. And I have a dad bod, and I'm I don't need to I'm not into the business of trying to look cool anymore in life.
I gotcha.
I'm all about let me live through your tattoo. Let me live through this piece. And it, honestly, man, it keeps tattoos fresh for me. I love tattooing someone. I'm pretending I'm putting it on me kind of thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I don't know if that answered the question, but.
No, it did. Yeah. It did. Yeah. I definitely feel like you're, as far as artists I met, you're definitely the most anal about, if somebody takes care of their skin or how to take care of their tattoos and stuff. Yeah. One thing I think is interesting though, is I feel like it's just becoming more and more common nowadays that some artists like as a tattoo artist, it's not a given that you're heavily tattooed anymore. I mean, we just talked to Taylor. She doesn't have any tattoos. Even my artist, when he was doing my sleeve, he didn't have any at the time. It's interesting.
And I love them. And do I see some tattooers that I'm like, dude, I'd love that, one of those on me. And then I'm like, wait, where do I put, where would I even put it, dude? It's not going to look good on me, dude, at all.
I don't know, man. Well, maybe you'll change your mind one day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man.
So how long have you been tattooing?
Probably like, I would say I started to like learn started to study tattoos like probably like 9 years ago to
Okay.
start studying them. But like tattooing, like maybe like 7, 8 years ago.
When did you start doing like black and gray?
Um, I was, when I did start learning and I was at a shop, there was a guy that was doing some black and gray realism. And like, it was definitely different than the other stuff that was being done it was a street shop.
Yeah.
And so like, I think when I saw him doing what he was doing, I was like, dude, that looks cool. That,
Yeah.
kind of like how you said, like, like black and gray has this look,
Yeah.
and just seeing, like high contrast and all that. I was like, dude, I want to learn how to do that,
Yeah.
like let's bypass like some infinity symbols. Not that those are bad, but
Yeah.
like I don't want to do any like, feathers right now. I want to like learn,
Yeah.
so I just, started studying that, and I'd watch that guy work. And then, uh, I was fortunate that shop that, they let me, hang out there. And
Yeah.
I mean, especially me, I started getting into tattooing late in life. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So how old were you when you started tattooing?
I was like in my 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was teaching. I was a special ed teacher for LA Unified, and trying to motivate students to like get into a career of art, and I kind of put a few of them up to, learn, why don't you go learn how to tattoo, be a tattooer? And they kind of challenged me. So from there, I'm like, dude, let me prove a point to these guys.
Did you think it'd be like hard to get into it? Or was it hard to get into it? I mean,
It was, considering that I didn't even know anybody who had a tattoo.
yeah, really?
Like, or anyone who had a tattoo that was like done in like a studio,
Yeah.
and not in a garage or something.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I just, more than anything at that point, I was just like, I'm curious now. I want to see what, like, what's the deal with, because I was in art, I would draw and paint, and I made music, and, like, it's another medium. Let me check it out. Let me learn about it,
Yeah.
and then, I mean,
So how did you find an apprenticeship?
I finally remembered I had a friend who was getting tattooed at this one street shop. And so he's like, yeah, dude, just come with me. You'll meet the artist, So he went to get a tattoo, and I went and I met the artist. And I still keep in touch with the guy. He's a really nice guy. But he let me like, watch. And then at the time, the owner of that shop, he was not a tattooer, but he, they let me hang out there. So I got to hang out and be in that environment and just watch and listen, watch some of the other artists in there too. And that's kind of like, I was kind of fortunate to at least be able to be in that environment.
Yeah.
They didn't like make me like mop up anything, or, they were pretty like chill,
Really?
But
But were they teaching you to tattoo at that point?
they would, they would let me watch.
Uh-huh.
And then like I would ask questions, and then, and then I also started, at the time, like Instagram and like Facebook or any social media, like wasn't really,
Yeah,
it wasn't really happening too
Yeah.
much.
I
It was
think
kind of
probably
the
Instagram
start
was,
of
like,
it.
just starting. Yeah.
So like they had magazines there.
Yeah.
So I would indulge in the magazines, and then at that point, I'd go to Barnes and Nobles and all the different like bookstores, and I'd grab those magazines, and then, sometimes some artists would be like, "Oh, I have a bunch of old ones." I'm like, "Oh, bring them to the shop." So I looked at a lot of magazines, and I looked at a lot of pictures, and then, just trying to understand. Again, I knew nothing about anything. Like, like there's like different styles, like like traditional and realism and I was always like, why does there need to be styles? Like, it's art, man. It has to be, but I didn't know anything. So
I feel like even at that time, like the concept of like being an artist that specializes in a style was like relatively new.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can remember like artists in some of the magazines, like, I mean, like Bob Tyrell, you would see in their work, like, oh wow, like, this tattoo kind of looks like that tattoo. And then you see like their style, that whole like style thing was, kind of sort of coming together.
Yeah. Was there anybody else that really stood out to you when you were looking at the magazines?
Gosh, let me think. Yeah, Bob Tyrell was. I liked his
OG.
black and gray.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see that.
Yeah.
And then there
I've
was.
never met him, but he just seems like a cool fucking dude too.
Oh my
you know?
gosh! I think that guy looks like he eats like bullets for breakfast, dude. He's
Yeah,
just like,
he does.
who else? Gosh. And then the TV shows were like, what is like Miami Ink? They'd have that
Maybe
stuff
like
on
LA
at the
Ink too. Yeah.
yeah L.A. Ink. What's his name was really cool. Corey Miller. Was it Corey Miller, the guy in L.A. Ink?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never seen that show actually.
Yeah, he was like, he would just grab a pen and he would just illustrate on the skin, and I was like, dude, like that's crazy, But so yeah, I mean, I was learning from the magazines too. I would
were you tattooing at all at this point?
every once in a while I would. They'd
Really?
let me
At that shop?
Yeah, they
would
let me
just let you
run
tattoo?
They let me run Craigslist ads. So I
What?
ran Craigslist ads for free tattoos
Really?
or tattoos for tips. And so like, I did some lettering stuff, and then like when I was watching that one dude like black and gray, that's when and then some of the magazines I was looking at, and that's when I was like, man, I want to like start doing some, make an attempt at this stuff,
Yeah. Were your first tattoos good?
Thankfully, like everything was salvageable. So like, they could come back after, I was, after I was better, they came back, and and did some of the people that, I would, man, there was a couple of clients that, up until like my last few months leaving LA, I met them from the Craigslist ads, and they would still come,
Really?
Yeah. And
Man.
that was, man, like really cool.
Yeah, that
really
was like
cool.
8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah. Few of them. They're really, really cool people, man.
Man, so you didn't really have an apprenticeship at all? You just kind of got to hang out at the shop and they just taught you how to tattoo?
Yeah, I hung out there. Then I hung out in another shop. I all these pieces that I did with the Craigslist, I made a little portfolio, and then I kind of shopped it at, I like, pitched my portfolio to this other shop out in Highland Park, and that owner
Highland Park, California. There's a Highland Park, Texas
Oh, okay,
too.
yeah, Highland Park, California.
It's so confusing whenever you say Frisco, because I know you're talking about San Francisco, not like the Frisco where I grew up, up the road.
Oh man, no, yeah, Highland Park, California. And so I, he took me on in there, and there was a gentleman in there that worked. He did a lot of black and gray realism, so that's where I learned from that guy a lot.
Yeah,
his name was Andreas, and like he was from Mexico, and he barely spoke English, and I barely spoke Spanish, but like, man, we like, we clicked, and I learned so much from him, and I would watch him a lot. I'd finish, what I was doing, and that guy would he would tattoo from like 7 a.m. till like 1, 2 a.m.
Damn.
He was
that's wild.
so many people, and his books were filled for months, and he would tattoo so much. And so I could go there at any time of the day, and he's tattooing, and I could watch him. So that I learned a lot from him too. I would say I learned a bunch of different things from him, and just, more than anything too, like just, motivation, like you can learn, you can watch until you're blue in the face, but like you obviously have to apply and work.
Yeah.
But also like the motivation, man. He was somebody that really motivated with his work ethic.
Dude, I feel like that's one of the coolest things about guest spots and seminars and stuff. It's like, even if you don't necessarily like take too many specific things each time, I feel like just being around other badass artists is like super inspiring.
100%.
Well, man, I really feel like anything you do. I used to have this band director that told me like, you're the product of the 5 people that you spend your time with the most. So I feel like if you can surround yourself with people that are like better than you, that's a really cool way to just push you and motivate you.
100%, for sure.
So were you doing black and gray at the time?
Yeah.
Or you were starting to?
Yeah, and I was starting to do some color there too, and just different stuff at that shop. And then,
well, so tell me about how you like stopped doing your day job and transitioned to tattooing. So when you were hanging out at the tattoo shop, kind of learning, that was kind of like outside your day job hours.
Yeah, I mean, I did that for a while, man, just because of how expensive everything was, and like after having
Like
kids,
all the equipment.
no, just expensive like life, like in
Oh
LA,
yeah, you
you
gotta have a job. Yeah.
and then having the kids, and then I want to say tattooing like saved the day, dude. Because like, dude, you don't get paid much as a teacher. Like,
Yeah, no, you
like,
don't. It's terrible.
anyone listening, like, if you want to be a teacher, like, no, like, you're not getting paid, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you're getting
awful.
paid in peanuts, and then you're getting paid with, impacting lives, which is great too. I love doing that. But dude, like, in LA, we were living on three incomes, and we were making ends meet like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a good businessman, dude. Which is why I work for you, bro. Like, I let you handle all that. Like,
Well, you're really good at tattooing.
thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah. So tell me about what it was like leaving your job and becoming a full-time tattooer.
It's man, I would say, like, again, like, I also came to a point where, like, when you don't have a passion to do something anymore,
Yeah.
especially something like teaching, like, you don't want to teach kids when, like, you don't, you're not as passionate about it anymore, like, and that would go for tattooing. Like, if I'm not passionate about tattooing, like, I'm out, dude. Like, I don't, like, that's how I was raised, like,
Yeah.
my dad raised me to, like, if you're going to do something, like, you better give your all to it,
Yeah.
especially, in both of those industries. It's like, it's super, super important, but
Yeah. Well, so when did you make the jump to quit your job?
well, I would say, like, it wasn't too long ago. I would say before the pandemic is when I stopped teaching completely. But with the district, I was able to do consult
So you were teaching and tattooing like this whole time?
up until like 2019.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. And then I got a consulting kind of position where I was doing stuff for special education with early ed.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that, which was like minimal hours. I was able to keep my benefits. I was able to keep my retirement.
And this was before the pandemic or after
Before the
Okay.
pandemic. Yeah. And then, but yeah, I mean, most of the time I would like, I would start my day early, like 6:30. I'd be done teaching by like 2.
Yeah.
So like I would just go to the studio from there.
Yeah. And then how long would you work?
I'd work till probably like 10, 11
Dang. So you did that for like years.
years. Oh,
Man,
yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
That's
yeah.
wild to me. I thought you stopped teaching when you started tattooing.
I mean, I was tattooing full time and teaching full time. But again, like,
So is that what you meant? When you said 3 incomes, you had 2.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Man,
Oh, yeah,
dang.
man.
That is crazy, dude. And that's just what you had to do, I guess, to make ends meet there.
yeah. And like, I think the benefits too, man. Like,
Yeah.
I had put in like so many years of like for my retirement that I felt weird like to just cut that,
Yeah.
because with tattooing, there's no like, dude, like, I mean, there's no retirement, there's no health benefits. I mean,
Yeah.
like things that you guys are doing is like, that's on another level, man.
Yeah.
It's another level. Like yeah, I mean, and also like, I did love teaching too. I had a passion to like help
Yeah.
kids, like I definitely like didn't want to just leave it, and also like, I used to always think like, man, like what's going to happen to this industry if there's like a recession or, like
The tattoo industry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I started tattooing or getting into tattooing after like,
the Great Recession, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. So like, I always wondered like what would happen. Like, cause it's not a necessity.
Right. Yeah. It's a luxury service, obviously. Yeah. That's really interesting. And I feel like we're so lucky that we got through the pandemic, but I feel like, I mean, at least here in Texas, I feel like it didn't slow down the tattoo industry at all.
Dude, 2020 was my busiest year tattooing ever. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was
I mean,
crazy.
They shut us down for like a couple months, obviously. But after that, dude, so many people wanted to get tattooed. I feel like what it was, though, I feel like people, like they stopped spending money on vacations and stuff like that. They were like, well, now I can finally spend money on tattoos,
Oh yeah. They were depressed. People were depressed. People were bored. They were home.
Yeah.
Tattooing was like it was a perfect like thing for them to do. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Well, and then you got to think too, tattoos have been around literally for thousands of years. Every culture, most cultures through history, like they've had tattooing in some way or another. So I don't feel like it's ever going away, but that is really interesting. I don't know what would happen if it was like a straight up recession as opposed to the pandemic where people are still getting paid at least. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, man. Dude, 2020 was,
Yeah.
I mean, you said a couple months you guys were shut
Yeah.
down.
How long?
For us, it was, I mean, I waited to see if there was going to be like, bodies piled up on the street.
Yeah.
And, I would say by like April, and it was still illegal for us to tattoo in LA, but
Yeah.
everybody was they were covering their windows in their studios and they were working.
Yeah.
And for me,
Well, dude, you almost have to at
Oh
that
my
point.
gosh, dude,
yeah, especially with
totally,
the cost of
yeah.
living out there.
Oh man, it's funny too because when I opened my studio, I had my windows covered
Yeah.
and I was never open to the public. It was always private.
Right.
And all my tattoo buddies would be like, "Why do you have your windows covered?" And then when the pandemic started, they all covered their windows. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, now you're making your windows look like mine."
Yeah.
But
So when you opened the private studio, that was like what, five
5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
were you still teaching at the time?
Oh yeah, I would go in at like in the after because most of my clients they wouldn't book until like in the afternoon anyway. So,
Yeah.
and then I would do once I stopped teaching or weekends or summers, I would just start earlier in the day. So
Yeah. Dude, that is crazy. I still can't get over the fact that you had 2 jobs.
oh yeah, man.
So what made you want to go to the private studio? What, that studio where you were at with Andreas, was that where you were before the private studio?
No, I jumped around. I worked at a couple other shops too. Like there's one out in the valley that I worked at too. And then I ended up coming
Dude,
back.
it's funny when you say like LA geographical terms, like I know what they mean.
Okay, so the valley is like the San Fernando
No,
Valley.
I don't, it doesn't really matter to me, but I never think about it. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, you might as well be speaking a different language, but I'm sure it's the same way with me when I tell you about places.
Well,
in
I want to
Texas.
learn the Texas ways. Like,
Yeah.
I always ask clients, so which part are you from? Teach me. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was at a few shops until I kind of came back to the studio that I had started at, and I was just renting
okay.
space from
Okay.
there. And then
Like the very first studio where you
yeah,
okay.
yeah, that was kind of cool. And then I did one more thing I did was like the shop in that valley. I worked out a kind of a deal with that owner where he would keep my books there. And so if he'd book me, I'd go and I'd work. He'd book me appointments with my work.
Okay.
And then he knew my schedule, so we kind of would coordinate. So
Gotcha.
I kind of worked for him, like, I guess, part-time,
Okay. Interesting.
and then that kind of, I was so hesitant to open my own place. I was like, I was like scared to sign a
big
lease.
commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was like, dude, like, and I'm going to do it by myself. And, and then, man, I have to thank my clients, man, because they would all tell me like, bro, like, just do it. Like,
Yeah.
what are you afraid of? Like, one of them told me, he's like, look, man, if you told me you're going to open a cell phone store, I would tell you, like, don't do it because you don't know anything about cell phones.
Yeah.
But like, about tattooing. So open the business,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I did. And I mean, dude, I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
That was rad. It was a fun experience.
Yeah. So you already kind of mentioned it before, but you said you just had Craigslist clients that were still getting tattooed by you.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things I think about you is just seeing your body of work in the sense that you have just so many clients that have so much work from you. I mean, I've genuinely I've been in this industry for a little bit and I've never seen anything like that where so many people have so much work from the same artist. Like, how do you do stuff like that? And I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, man, it's hard to book full sleeves, book full leg sleeves, back pieces, bodysuits. Like that's a really high level to get there. How did you go about doing that?
Man, I don't know.
Or did it just come naturally?
You know what, man? It came organically because like I didn't have like, I wouldn't get clients from like the street shop,
Yeah.
Most of the time it was like, people, it would be referrals. It'd be people like, hey, I work with, your client and I see his sleeve all the time. And, and a lot of family, like, oh, my brother wants a sleeve too now. And, now my cousin.
Seems
and,
like it was like a lot of word of mouth. Yeah.
a lot, man. And I love that. I'm all about that, dude. Like I know people would like the Instagram days, like, hey man, you got to buy followers and you got to look like you're super like busy. And I'm like, no, like I don't want to do that. Like
Yeah.
I want to know who follows me. Like I want to
Yeah.
know so that I can gauge how my business is doing. And I think like I felt like I was really, at least I felt like I was true to that. And people came, man. And dude, like, I think any of my clients can vouch, dude. They know like I really, really care about what I put on someone.
Yeah.
Like I'm critical, like maybe too much sometimes in my brain, you know, but I feel like it's important to be like that. And I think they see that and like they trust me and they come back, man. I mean, and I'm super grateful, you know, and yeah, I mean, to think too that like, you know, I would work 2 jobs and like it was, dude, my wife's really supportive, man. Like she really
Because
supported.
she's been here you guys have been married for 20 years or?
Yeah. I've known her for 23 years. I've known her. So, and we've been married for, she'll kill me. I forgot, like 18. I think it's going to be 18 years this year.
You better not tell her about this. Dude, she's going to find out that you don't know how long you've been married and that you had a Whataburger sandwich.
She's going to be like, can I hear the podcast? I'm like, no, I wasn't on it.
You're like, Colton messed up. He accidentally deleted the whole recording. Yeah, don't look for it.
Oh man, I mean, dude, it's a lot of hours, dude. It was like,
yeah, especially if you had kids during that time. You know?
Yeah, no, really. Yeah, but overall though, the clients were really, you know, and I would tell some of them like, hey man, like, why don't you go get a piece from so and so, you know, and. You know, like I'm not one of those people that get butthurt if like people get tattooed by someone else. Where I knew other artists, they'd be like, "Dude, I can't believe you got like a piece from so and so." It's like, dude, who cares? Like, so I would try to tell them like, "Hey, man, why don't you go to so and so and let me come with you so I can watch him tattoo?" You know, but and they're like, "No, man, I want it to be collective body of work from you." And I'm like, it's humbling, dude. It's like, man, it's a humbling
really,
thing,
really cool.
bro.
Yeah.
It's like, that's another thing, man, that I love about, I mean, so many artists out here are super humble, man. And I love that. Like, it's an honor to be able to put like ink on somebody, dude. You can't take that for granted. Like, you can't be like a rock star about it. Like, you need to know that like this person is entrusting you to do something that's like super meaningful to them, or heck, even if it means to look cool, that's a meaningful thing for that person, dude. Like that's their look, you know, that's what they're going to see in the mirror every day. So I don't know. I'm grateful, man.
Yeah. I talked about it a little bit on the last episode too, but I feel like one of the coolest things about tattooing as a medium is just like sharing that, you know, connection with the person that did it on you, because it's like a lot more personal than, you know, a painting or something like that. And not that that can't be personal, but just to go through that experience with somebody like sitting there for hours as they create the tattoo and you're in pain. That's like, it's really cool. It's just a very unique, really cool thing that's, you know, exclusive to tattooing.
It is. Yeah. Gosh, like I can't think of another like field that it's like that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the things that
maybe a barber, but like I don't have much hair, so I don't.
Yeah. But I mean, and you got people that are, you know, they're loyal to one barber too. You know, they come back and that makes sense. I mean, tattooing is a lot more expensive, obviously, but yeah, man, I just think that's so cool. And you know, even just when I started looking at your work back when we started hiring you, just seeing that you've got so many large scale pieces out there, it's really awesome.
Thanks, man.
And you know, obviously we were super lucky to have a couple of your clients with like full body suits, you know, come into the studio to get photographed. I've probably seen, like in my life, I've probably seen like maybe 3 people with like what I would say is like a full like black and gray bodysuit, and like 2 of them were your clients, which I think is just the coolest thing ever.
Thanks, man.
And it's always crazy. You'll be talking about different clients that have huge back pieces and stuff like that. I'll be like, "Oh, is that this one?" And you're like, "No, that's somebody else, and I've never heard of that person." It's like, dang, man, how many back pieces, how many bodysuits you got walking around out there, how many sleeves? It's really, really cool. And it's something that is really rare. I mean, even Deanna, I mean, she's doing more sleeves nowadays, but she went through a long period of time where she would do, you know, a piece on somebody and they wouldn't really come back for anything else. So just being able to do that, that's really awesome. And I think it says a lot about you as an artist and as a person too, that just people want to come back to you all the time and get stuff from you.
Thanks, man. No, it's encouraging, man. One of my buddies, it's funny, he's like, he told me the other day, he's like, man, I was at like Target and like somebody noticed the sleeves, like, oh, that's Hovagu's sleeve, man. I'm like, that makes me feel, dude, I feel so happy when I hear something like that, man. And because how happy he is, I want him to be happy. And, obviously like we both love the work, but like he felt like, he had like a moment,
And you mentioned it before, obviously there's a large Armenian community in LA. So a lot of your clients are Armenian and, both of the bodysuits that came in, they do have a lot of that Armenian imagery, stuff from your culture. So what was the first guy's name? Joe, right?
Joseph.
So Joseph, not Joe. He doesn't like Joe. Yeah, I remember now. So Joseph came in and he's got all this just super emotional imagery from the Armenian genocide, right?
Yeah.
And, Michael was talking about Joseph was talking about how people could see, those images on the street and they know what it was. And then the even more interesting about that is Eddie came in later and Eddie has a bodysuit for Michael and he was showing us his stuff. And he was saying basically Michael kind of like started this trend of like that Armenian imagery and stuff like that out there.
And there's a couple other guys too in LA that would do, some of the Armenian stuff too. But like, it's just so, black and gray being such a young, black and gray realism, at least being such a young art form.
Yeah.
And then Armenians jumping in and tattooing and, doing Armenian, imagery.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's like, it's so,
dude, it's fascinating.
Dude, it's crazy. It's so young. That's the funny thing. It's such a young art form,
Yeah.
like,
but I think it's so cool. I feel like it goes a whole nother level as far as like, tattoos having meaning, but just that it's connected to your culture. I think that's awesome.
yeah,
And as somebody, I really don't know much about Armenian history. Do you want to kind of talk about what some of those images are that you've tattooed that have been particularly powerful or?
I think like for Joseph's whole shirt, it's all, Armenian imagery, but one of the pieces in particular, he has like on his side, he has a photograph. It's an actual photograph from like the early 1900s of like, when the Ottoman Empire, came in and started, doing some slaughtering in Armenia. Like they beheaded, first they beheaded and they killed all of the professors and the clergymen and like, the leaders.
Yeah.
And when they beheaded them, they like put their heads on a shelf.
Yeah.
And there's a photograph of that. And like Joseph wanted to put that on his rib.
Yeah.
And that's like, I have like goosebumps because I remember.
Yeah. I was going to say, dude, how does it feel to tattoo something that powerful from your culture? That's crazy.
Dude, I'll never forget because it was such a long session. And like, we were just talking about our history throughout the session. And, I really got sick. Like that night I like got sick, like just because of how heavy it was,
Wow.
Yeah. Like the next day, like I had to tattoo the next day and I was like, I felt terrible, I'm glad we did it and it's on him and it's like, it's a good representation, but man, it was heavy, dude.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the most emotional pieces I was involved in.
Yeah.
In regards to like, people get memorial pieces, they're very emotional and I get like that too, but my tie-in, at least with that piece was pretty big.
Yeah. And the fact that you're both Armenian, you both got to share that cultural experience and those emotions together.
Oh yeah. No, it was cool, man. It definitely was. And I think it's so rad too. Like there's a good number of Armenian artists in LA and they're, they all did, everyone's doing pieces like that. And there's a lot of Armenians that get it. And, I feel like the Armenians kind of, followed in the footsteps of like so many Mexican Americans that were getting like Mexican cultural pieces in LA.
Yeah.
And so like the Armenians started doing it too. And, call it following, call it what you will, but I think it's all beautiful. Like,
oh, dude, I think it's fascinating. It's so
putting
cool.
your culture and, and like replicating like the Chicano style, like, black and gray. Dude, it's just like something so, it's just special because it's our Armenians meeting like the black and gray world. And it's just, man, It's so cool. And going to conventions and dude, like when I go to conventions with Joseph and Joseph's like standing and like people are asking him questions about his shirt and he's breaking everything down and talking about the pieces. Dude, it's like,
Yeah.
it's so cool.
It is really cool. It was so cool hearing him talk about it, hearing Eddie talking about it. Yeah. So man, thank you for doing that. So I can kind of just see it, or just anybody who gets to see it. I think that's so awesome, dude.
Thanks for having them, man. They were so happy to be at the studio. Like they love the studio. So they were like, man, I want to get tattooed in there. We're like, let's do it.
Yeah. Man, do you feel like moving away from such a large Armenian community has made things more difficult?
I think like I loved being around Armenians. You know, it's funny, man. LA is people think LA is like, you know, super like, you know, progressive and everyone's all together, but it's pretty segregated, you know?
Really?
So like
Okay.
a lot of pockets of cultures that are together, which is not a bad thing, but you know, there's big Armenian communities and they stick together, you know, but I do miss being around a lot of Armenians, but I also love how it is out here. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I do miss all my clients though. I miss, you know, and it's funny. I had so many other Armenian artists out there. I feel like they had more Armenian clients than I did.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Cause they would tell me like, man,
I didn't
like,
even realize I didn't realize that there were other Armenian artists out there and stuff. That's
yeah,
really cool.
and they're great. They're great people, man. I mean, one of them I'd love to like try to have him guest spot. He's a great, talented, very talented artist. But yeah, like he would tell me like, man, dude, I'm tired of doing like religious pieces, man. Because Armenians get a lot of religious pieces, you know.
Yeah.
So he'd be like, man, I'm sick of doing doves and Jesuses, and you know, like they're like, man, you get to do lots of pop culture, cool stuff, and I'm like, well, I mean,
Yeah. Man, but that's really fascinating that it's, you know, it's kind of similar to the, you know, the Mexicans tattooing out there and them doing stuff from their culture and you guys are doing stuff from your culture. I mean, that's really cool. Yeah. So as somebody who's been tattooing for, you know, 6, 7, I mean, you've been doing black and gray realism for a long time. You've had the opportunity to see large scale pieces. A lot of old clients come back with work that's 6, 7 years healed. And that's something that a lot of tattooers nowadays, all the young tattooers out there, they have never seen that because they haven't been tattooing that long. Are there any specific things that you see in your work from 6, 7 years ago that make you change the way you apply tattoos now, or make some of the choices you make with your tattoos, just thinking about the longevity? Because another thing I think is cool about your portfolio with all the large scale work you have, you know, it takes a long time to do that stuff, to do sleeves, to do back pieces. And so a lot of your clients, a lot of your work, it goes back a long time. And if you look at your Instagram, I mean, you can see the effort and the emphasis that you put on healed tattoos. You know, you post healed tattoos all the time. And I think the attention that you pay to that is really cool. And I love the way your stuff heals. So I was going to see if you could speak a little more to that as far as any, you know, choices you make when you're tattooing, whatever, picking gray wash, picking needles, designing, that you do with that longevity in mind.
yeah, man. Early on, I did that, man. I would see people come in and I would see their work, and I would always ask them like, when did you get that? Do you have a picture of what that looked like when you got it? And I was kind of fascinated with like, what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but my brain went there. And so like, I kind of would study that, and then I would see how my stuff would come back. And then, you know, I would analyze it and critique that, you know, rather than critique it when it was done. So I did a lot of that. You know, my brain was always like, hey man, like what are they living with? Not what does it look like when it's, you know, red, you know, like, cause some people would tell me, man, I love it when my tattoo's red. And I'm like why, dude?
Well,
it's called black and gray.
Tomorrow.
It's not black and pink and red. So like, I don't know, like over the years, I definitely saw like, I would like I would saturate things a lot more in the past. And then as time would go on, I was realizing how the ink spreads and moves.
Sure.
And like, you know, also with composition, like how much skin to see and how much black to see. And, you know, like, I feel like, hey, like, you know, I mean, not to put a percentage on it, but I would always say like, you know what, let's have at least 40% black in a black and gray piece. You know, like I kind of would always like, you know, there's got to be some black, and then, you know, like to leave skin to let, you know, to give room. And I think I also went with a lot of larger pieces too, because I I felt like if I put a bunch of little details, like we're not giving like the tattoo a lot of breathing room,
Yeah.
So, I think I changed that over time too, like to leave more like the skin to ink ratio, let that ratio be a little bit bigger so that there's more room for the tattoo to like get old.
Yeah.
And if it needs to get, I don't know, like when should a black and gray piece get touched up if somebody's taking care of it? Should it be like 10 years? I don't know. Like, I don't know the answer to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's different.
Well, yeah, you haven't been tattooing 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't really say, but
I mean, like I'm looking at like 6-7-year-old pieces on some clients and I'll be like, hey, okay, that's not bad. And I see right there, it got all, like some of the grays like muffled out here a little bit, and there wasn't enough breathing room. And
yeah.
so just like analyzing from there kind of, it definitely has pushed me to where I do leave a lot more, skin to ink ratio. And yeah, I mean, also like the tattoo, I don't know if like the inks are, if they're using better inks now too. And although like I use dynamic, which is, I don't know if dynamic is like, I've used dynamic for years and eternal for years. I don't know if they've changed their formulas or anything, but I mean, I don't know.
Maybe machines and needles have probably gotten a little bit better.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's like,
or a lot better. Actually, I don't really know. Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy, man. Like that's another thing. It's like when I was learning, it was about learning the coil. Like you have to, it was almost like it's a whole other thing you have to learn. Like if you don't know how to tear the machine apart and put it back together, it's like, dude, that's like a whole other job, dude.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I got a rotary, everyone in the shop was like, dude, what are you, a wuss, dude? Like, what is that thing, man?
So you were one of the first ones?
Yeah. And then, dude, they all use rotaries now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got called a wuss for having a rotary. But I mean,
But you were just a trendsetter.
Dude, I just wanted to try it too. Like I loved the coils. I loved using them, but like, I wanted to see, and actually I used it and I didn't like it and I stopped using it and I kept using the coils. So,
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I used coils like I would say like even up to like 4 years ago, I was still,
okay.
Yeah. I think when I got my own space and my own studio is when I was like, I started sticking to the rotary, and then the cartridges came out, and then it was over.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
like, dude, one machine, a bunch of cartridges.
Yeah. Yeah. If you listen to Deanna's episode where she talks about like scrubbing tubes, that's what we're talking about, going from scrubbing tubes to everything being disposable.
That's crazy. It is.
Yeah. That is one really cool thing that, I don't think about too much about what's drive the industry because it's come so far, but I'm sure that has a lot to do with it too. It's just the technology changing and getting more efficient.
Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. Like in such a short time too. Because I mean, and I can't help but to like feel for some like, like old timers. They were so used to that. And then it's such a cultural change for them. But I mean, it's, it's good to like,
it's a good thing though.
yeah,
I think,
like they have to try, you have
Yeah.
to try it because it's going to make their life easier. It's going to, it's going to save you so much, like the whole thing of like, not making handmade stencils,
Yeah.
like using an iPad.
Yeah.
Dude, how much time that saves?
Yeah, for sure.
Before you'd bring the client in and you would map out on the paper their arm.
Yeah.
And then you'd make the stencil. You spent, and like you spent a bunch of time on that stencil, paper stencil. They show up with their fiance and their fiance is like, well, I want it on the other arm and I want it smaller. And you're like, dude, I just spent like an hour and a half on this like stencil.
Yeah.
And like, are you serious? And it's like, yeah, dude, my girl said you got to change it.
Dude, wow. Man, isn't that a crazy concept in and of itself? Like significant others dictating people's tattoos.
Dude,
It's so crazy. But girl or guy, it doesn't matter. It happens all the time.
I can top anyone's story on that, bro. Like,
Please do.
I had one time this guy, he brought not only his girlfriend, but his mom to a consultation.
Yeah.
I don't know how I survived that, but I did. Yeah.
But did you put the stencil on him and everything? And
Yeah, everything was,
okay.
but like,
Gotcha.
but you have to imagine, like when I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this happening right now? Like,
Dude, that's
how
why-
am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to get out of it?
You know, the pandemic was tough, but I think it did like do the tattoo industry some favors because there were some rules. It's like, all right, well, we can't have guests right now. That makes stuff
Oh my
makes stuff like
gosh.
that easier. And that's why we tell people hey, you can bring somebody with you, but the design, like that's between you and your artist. You know, like the more cooks you have in the kitchen, the worse it gets, I feel like.
Dude. Oh man.
Yeah.
Like if anyone has a design, like just like a few days before, dude. Oh my gosh. They show it to everyone.
Well, yeah, and that's the reason why one of the reasons why we don't send out designs ahead of time too, because they're going to ask their mom, their girlfriend, and they're all going to have an opinion on it. And it's sorry, but it's probably not going to be very good.
Dude.
Well, so obviously you had a ton of clients in LA that got a ton of work on you. Is there anything that, you know, somebody that might be thinking about a large project with you, is there anything you'd want them to know about working with you or your style or anything like that?
I mean, I always say, man, like, you know, you look at someone's work, you look at my work, and if, you know, I always tell them, look at what do you like about it and show me what you like about it.
Yeah.
And then tell me your idea. Cause it's like, if I can see what you like that I do and you can tell me your vision, I feel like their vision and my abilities in work that I've created, when those two meet, they'll get the best out of me.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, you know, like, take a look at what I've done. Show me what you like. This way I can go into the mind frame that I was in when I created that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily will I make the same piece for them, obviously, but you know, like this way I could see what they like in regards to composition or, you know, execution of a piece. And
Yeah.
that always, I feel like that's always the best formula. I think that's what I would do if I was going to get tattooed, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I was going to get tattooed by Deanna, I'd probably like find a few pieces that she's done that I really love.
Yeah.
And say, hey, what you did on these two are like really rad. But I want to, you know, this theme, take those, and what you do is what I want to get on me. Cause that's where, you know, the artist will kind of like, I feel like can make it happen and help it come to fruition on me, you know? But,
yeah. What are your favorite things to tattoo?
Simpson characters. No, I'm kidding. Now, although I
Black
love
and gray
Simpson,
or color?
I mean, I love doing like, I mean, not like dark imagery, but I love skulls and bones and roses.
Kind of like surreal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that stuff. I like portraits, you know, I like, you know, portraits, like fun portraits from like movies, pop culture. I like doing animals and flower, you know, black and gray flowers. And,
is there anything you want to like kind of break into or start to do more of?
Man, being around like everyone at the studio is like so good with color flowers. I definitely want to, you know, jump into doing some color and, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's like such everything's so new right now for me too. So it's just like, I don't know. I kind of just want to like see, you know, I'm into like organically letting things happen, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm open to that, you know, and I feel like I'm in such a good place. So to me, that's very important, you know, and being in where I am, I feel like it's a safe place for that to happen. So
yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, do you have any like goals with tattooing right now, or where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Just like probably at like Eden Studios in Rockwall, overlooking the water, man.
All right, you sold me,
dude. Let's
I'll
do it, man.
for you.
You know, honestly, I don't know, man. Like, I'm really motivated, you know, being around the artists I'm around right now. So like, I'm excited about that. But in regards to like 5-year goal, like, man, I want to get better with every piece I do. I've always done that, and I always want to do that. And I think when I don't want to do that, I don't want to tattoo anymore. But I don't know. I'm really motivated to learn more and more. So
yeah, you always seem so positive and so, you know, you always seem motivated about tattooing. It just seems like you genuinely just love it so much. Like, what do you love most about tattooing, do you think?
I don't know, dude. I've always loved making stuff, but like it's just special, man. It's so, I think that like the things you were mentioning too, like, the interaction with another person, and it's just, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's such a, if it tattooing feels like a dream, man. It really does. Like, it's like one of those things. Like, if you told me I was going to do that one day, I would have been like, what? Like, what are you talking? Like, are you serious? I remember when I told my wife, I'm like, I texted her that day. I'm like, hey dude, I'm going to learn how to tattoo. And she's like, okay, like, all right, go for it. So it's like, it's just one of the weirdest, coolest things, and I think also like being that it's not a new thing, but like the industry is just so, it's like kind of booming
quickly,
and changing so much that it's fun to be a part of it.
It's the best time to be in the tattoo industry. In my opinion.
Yeah. It's like, to be, and I saw what it was with like, like 8 years ago where it was, 9 years ago where it was, and seeing where it is now. And like, it's really neat. It's really something. And then to be in a whole nother state, in another place, in a new place, I feel like it's cool.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
And being in, like, I feel like you're like, you don't tattoo, but you collect, and you're definitely a visionary. And I like hearing you talk about it. I like hearing your thoughts on it. And I love being in in your studio, and like, you've got these visions, and it's cool for me to see that. It's like a new thing. I've never been around someone like that has a role like you. I think it's a really neat thing, man.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of that comes from, my love for tattoos. I mean, yeah, it's so crazy. Man, I'm just like getting emotional thinking about it. But like when I started getting tattooed 4 years ago, I mean, I had no idea how much it would change my life and how much it would become my career, my everything. And obviously, like, my wife being a tattoo artist, before I was in the industry, when we were just together and I was noticing the stuff she was doing, I was so into it and so about her talent. I was like, man, let's take this. Let's make a place where, we can help other artists grow their business. And man, it's so humbling to work around like such talented people every day. Like, I mean, obviously, like, you guys are like what makes our studio so great is the artists that are there. And man, overall, I just want everybody to really enjoy what they're doing. I just want to create a place where, it's really easy for you to just come up and be motivated every day and get better and to hone your craft and to enjoy your life. So it's a huge honor for me to be able to help make that happen. Yeah, with you or any of our artists. I mean, I'm really, really lucky to be able to do what I do. And I think man, I care about this industry. I care about tattoos, and I care about you guys. I just want to see you guys happy, and I want to see you guys succeed,
It's evident, man. Your actions are like loud, in that, and I mean, today we were, James was in the studio, and like, even like, such a talented dude he is. And like, and we were talking about how he uses his talents in a field that he loves. And man, it's just like like, there's just so many good formulas in there, man.
Yeah.
For everyone. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It really is. Like,
yeah. And I think for those of us that don't tattoo, myself, James, Nicole, it's like, dude, just being in a tattoo shop every day, it's a pretty fucking cool job. Right? And especially where just like, you guys blow me away every day with the stuff that everybody's doing on a daily basis. It's like you almost like become numb to it at some point. Yeah. It's like, yeah, everybody's tattoo is awesome today, but that's just what it is, Yeah. That's really cool. Well, I have one more super deep, important question for you. Have you seen the new Batman yet?
Man, I feel so guilty that you're asking me this because we were going to see it together, man. Well, I still haven't seen it. I still haven't seen it. And somebody this week told me too. They're like, you haven't seen it? Like, are you crazy? It's like the best movie in the world.
I think it's coming out on streaming services like soon. I think I saw that recently. So yeah, maybe you can watch it at home or something.
He told me, he's like, on the 16th, it's going to be available. And I'm like,
oh, that's soon. That's like in 2 days. So you'll have no excuse now.
No, I really want to see it.
When's the last time you went to the movie theater?
Oh my gosh. The last time.
Pre-pandemic or
Oh yeah,
post-pandemic?
I mean, probably. I want to say maybe the Joker film.
Okay, yeah. It was a
Yeah,
while
and
ago.
that was like, dude, that was eerie like the whole way through. I was
Yeah.
like, that was hard to watch.
Yeah.
It was good, but it was.
That was a tough one. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you do like a ton of Batman tattoos. Is that because you like Batman or because your clients like Batman or both?
Okay, so I have a client, awesomest dude. He loves Batman so much.
Yeah.
He has 2 Batman sleeves. So like, I've done other Batman pieces, but on this client,
Maybe I just keep seeing those pieces over and over again.
he has 2 Batman sleeves, but I've done Batman pieces on other people too. But his was very unique because he had his vision of like some of the older Batman movies.
Yeah.
Which was challenging too, because like some of the like the one with Arnold when he was Mr. Freeze.
Oh yeah.
Dude, like the promo pictures, the references are garbage. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I really had to like work on like, polishing those references up, and so, but that was fun, man.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like pulling references from like older movies is sometimes the quality's not as good.
Oh, man, especially during like it's like the 90s, dude. Something happened in the 90s, like because everything in the 70s, 60s, and 50s are like super cool, like photographers, high contrast,
Yeah, maybe they're like, man, I wonder if somebody's going to tattoo this stuff one day. And they're like, nah, that'll never happen. Let's just make it look like shit.
Who cares?
Who's your favorite Batman?
Considering I haven't seen the new one, dang, dude. I have to say Michael Keaton.
Okay.
How about you?
Man, so I watched the Batman movies as a kid, like a long time ago, but I haven't seen them recently. And before the new one came out, I was on the flight back from Georgia and I was like browsing through movies and I looked at, I forget which Batman it is, but it's the one with Jack Nicholson as the Joker and then Michael Keaton as Batman. And I watched the trailer. Man, it was so cheesy.
It is.
Like, and it's because when did that movie come out? Probably like
88.
Okay, was that long ago? Yeah. But man, it's
Back when we had dinosaurs and cavemen.
Yeah, I wasn't born back then. But yeah, it's I watched the trailer and I was like, I don't know if I'll enjoy it if I watch it. But it's funny to me, like just the concept of like movies becoming less cheesy. Like I don't know if we've like evolved in our taste for movies, but even when the new Spider-Man movie came out, I watched through all the old Spider-Man and I watched the first one with Tobey Maguire for the first time, which was like 2002. So it was like 20 years ago. And Deanna hadn't seen it yet. And there are some moments in there that are super cheesy. And she was making fun of how cheesy it was. And I still love the movie, honestly. But I was like, dang, that's crazy how 20 years later, we're like, yeah, we shouldn't do that stuff anymore. We don't like it anymore. Yeah.
Man, dude, that trailer is super cheesy, dude.
For Batman?
Because I played it for the kids because they saw the
Dude, it's
Dark
weird.
Knights.
There's like no sound in it. Yeah, it's wild.
It's
not
also
grip
like you got to look at it when it came out. Tim Burton directed it. Like the Tim Burton hype at that time when we were kids, and
yeah,
it all has to do with kind of like what you're saying with the Spider-Man. At the time you watched it, it was fine, and it was like that.
Yeah,
but now it's like, dude, you see Christian Bale Batmans, and they're freaking crazy.
Yeah.
So good. Like
Yeah.
the cinematography, the everything about it, like the acting. But I mean, it's also, it's a Tim Burton,
yeah.
and he's, have you seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Yes. when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh man, that's like classic, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll have to rewatch the Batman and tell you which one's my favorite.
Which one's your favorite right now?
Yeah, Christian Bale.
Christian
yeah,
Bale.
I like the Nolan trilogy a lot. Yeah.
It was
I
tough.
also love Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, he's good. It was tough though when it first came out with like his voice though. Like
It's really
they were
cheesy.
ripping on him so bad.
The new Batman is a little bit like that, but
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
I don't get.
I don't
that.
know, man. Yeah. It's a funny concept that, you cover up the top half of your face and no one knows who you are,
Man.
Or like Superman. At least it's not as bad as Superman where he just takes off his glasses. People are like, who is that?
Duh. Like,
Yeah.
even the second Batman's good too. The one with the penguin, with Danny DeVito.
Okay, yeah.
That's a
I'll have to go back and watch
it's a
it.
Tim Burton again. That it's the Tim Burton vibe. Like, it's like I don't know if you're into Beetlejuice and all that stuff.
Yeah, not particularly. I know your kids are.
Yeah, that's like that has a lot to do with like how he, his costumes and his drawings and how he did everything in the film. But
That's interesting, man. Yeah. Well, that is actually all the questions I had. Unless you had any more Batman related questions.
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, so Christian Bale stopped by the studio. Super nice guy. All right, man. Well, thank you for finally making this happen. It was a real pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed the food. Yeah, and I'll see you soon. Yeah, thank you guys for listening. If you're not following us on Instagram already, it's at EdenBASPod. And if you're not following Michael, it's at Hovag_tattoos. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Until next time.